Hi, everybody. I'd like to respond to a video by Prager U called The Suicide of Europe, which is only another name for the ridiculous concept of white genocide, which has been referred to as Great Replacement before, and now is being called Suicide of Europe. So, you may be wondering, how do you know it's the same thing? Well, even though Prager U decided to use dog whistles, because they know that, if they hadn't, rebranding and trying to resell this idea would only work with people who are already into the conspiracy theory. You can realize it's the same thing, based on the people who support this video in the comment section. Let's take a look. This guy says, "That's what happened when you kill all the good European in World War I and II. The person who wrote this comment is still trying to dog whistle. So, who were these good European, you may be wondering? Well, wonder no more, because this other guy stated it clearly when they commented, if Hitler conquered everyone, this wouldn't be an issue. You see? These people just don't get that they have to dog whistle, because if they don't, non-racist people will recognize these ideas for what they are." Let's take a look at another comment trying to use dog whistles, such as globalists, which is a dog whistle for Jews, but only a few words later saying literally, start off the elimination of the white race. So, as you can see, these people believe in the white genocide and recognize the dog whistle in this video. Here we have some more racist comments. Deporting anyone with a darker skin tone would solve most of the problems, mixed race is a suicide, etc., etc. These are only a few samples. If you go to Prager U's video, you'll find a lot of comments like these, because they are talking about the myth of white genocide in an encrypted version. The reasons behind this, other than trying to not get demonetized, is to attract people who are not truly racist to these ideas, which is a way to radicalize people into the far right. This is why I decided to talk about this video. Even though this has been debunked several times, let's listen to what these people have to say so that we can make an argument against this.
The civilization born of Judeo-Christian values, ancient Greek philosophy, and the discoveries of the Enlightenment is staring at the abyss.
Okay, philosophy and even the Enlightenment are not exclusively European. Greek philosophy, which is depicted on that illustration, actually didn't just come out of nowhere. It's partially derived from Kemet civilization that had always had contact with the Greeks. Plato, Pythagoras, Hippocrates and others had contact with this African tribe. Some of them studied there and exported their ideas into Europe, because they went there to live as immigrants. In fact, historian Richard Hooker says that Plato's description of a dichotomy between a higher and lower self, an idea that's quite important in his Republic, and which is actually the notion of this Western concept of reason, the higher self, in opposition with the lower self, represented by more earthly aspects of life, such as pleasure and feelings, is an idea that actually came from Kemet. Plato learned it from them, and it's an amazing thing that he had brought it to Europe, so that now we can all know about it. This is why immigration is in general a good thing, because it allows us to learn more things about different cultures and use it in our own. Another example of multiculturalism that goes even way back in the history of Western civilization is in Homer's Iliad and Odyssey, where Ethiopians are mentioned in a good light. In the Iliad and Odyssey, Homer's Ethiopians inhabit the edges of the earth, where they are in close proximity to the sun, which has darkened their skin. In addition, they are notable for their privileged relationship with the gods. Let's quote from the Odyssey, "But Poseidon was visiting the far-off Ethiopians, the Ethiopians who are divided in half, the remotest of men, some of whom live where the sun god sets and some where he rises. There, Poseidon, receiving a hecatomb of bulls and rams, delighted in sitting at the feast." So, as you can see, the ancient Greeks actually didn't have any problem with immigration, since they themselves were immigrants, and also they didn't have any problem with people from Africa, because Western culture has always nurtured itself from another cultures via immigration and commerce. If anything, ancient Greeks had a problem with the nomadic tribes, which would wander around in what today is mostly German territory. same as the Romans. So, if Prager U really wants to return to ancient history, it should advocate for a closer relation with African peoples in general and for hatred towards Germany. But, since they like to pretend that white people, or European people have always considered themselves a single race or brotherhood, they won't acknowledge that in fact even a few years ago, Italians wouldn't have been considered whites, and that Europeans have been in conflict against each other during most of their history and until very recently hadn't seen themselves as a unified people.
Europe is committing suicide. How did this happen? It's a complicated story, but there are two major causes. The first is the mass movement of peoples into Europe. This has been going on steadily since the end of World War II, but sped up massively in the migration crisis of 2015 when more than 1 million migrants poured into Europe from the Middle East, North Africa and East Asia.
Notice how the dog whistle intensifies to a point that it's hard to even consider it a dog whistle. I mean, there are no white people on the illustration of migrants, even though, as we'll be seeing later, the majority of migrants to European countries are white people coming from other European countries, but on the illustration they're all brown. I wonder why. Well, not really.
Let's take a closer look at both causes. For decades, Europe encouraged people, mostly from the Middle East and North Africa, to come as temporary workers. Nobody expected them to stay, yet they did. Why would they leave? The economic opportunities were far greater in Europe than from where they came, and if the work dried up, there were generous welfare benefits to be had.
So, the implication here is that immigrants receive welfare benefits and therefore they decide to stay in Europe rather than come back, an implication that can lead some people to think they're basically paying for immigrants' livings, while immigrants don't contribute with anything. But this is not true. The reality is that, according to the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, migrants contribute more in taxes and social contributions than they receive in individual benefits. Let's quote, "Recent work on the fiscal impact of migration for all European OECD countries, as well as Australia, Canada and the United States, has provided new and internationally comparative evidence. The study suggests the impact of the cumulative waves of migration that arrived over the past 50 years in OECD countries is on average close to zero, rarely exceeding 0.5% of GDP in either positive or negative terms. The impact is highest in Switzerland and Luxembourg, where immigrants provide an estimated net benefit of about 2% of GDP to the public purse. Immigrants are thus neither a burden to the public purse nor are they a panacea for addressing fiscal challenges. In most countries, except in those with a large share of older migrants, migrants contribute more in taxes and social contributions than they receive in individual benefits."
During 2015, Germany and Sweden added 2% to their populations in a single year.
I'm not a follower of Prager U, but I think that I had seen a few videos by them before I watched this one, and they used to mention where they got their statistics from. Now, here in this one, they don't mention it at all. So I had to Google myself, and I found out this: the immigration Germany has received it's mostly European, at least 15 countries of the most common country of resident foreign nationals in Germany are European, with Poland, Italy and Romania placed in second, third and fifth place respectively. In the case of Sweden, 12 of these countries are European too, so the increasings of these countries' populations have mostly been European. Therefore I shall insist, why did they say that immigration comes mostly from the Middle East and North Africa, if the majority of such migrants are European?
By 2017, the most popular boy's name in the United Kingdom was Mohammed.
Oh, they got me here. I guess I've been wrong all along. Muslims are surely taking over Europe, or maybe not. Let's see. Okay, once more I had to Google myself for this information, since Prager U didn't bother to link to sources, and I found out this: Muhammad has replaced William in the top 10 most popular boys' names in England and Wales, says The Independent, and continues. But if different spellings of the moniker are accounted for, including Mohammed and Mohammed, the Arabic name is by far the most popular boy's name overall. The name has risen 35 places in the past decade, and now sits in 8th spot, with 3,908 boys born last year being given it. 3,908 babies were named Muhammad. There are approximately 696,271 babies being born in Britain per year, for God's sake. So, first omission by Prager U, you have to account for different spellings of the name for it to be the most popular. I wonder what would happen if we counted John, and John as the same name, so the fact that Muhammad and its different spellings are the most popular names doesn't mean that people named Muhammad are the majority, it only means that the name is popular among some group of people, a group which is still a small minority. Muhammad in Muslim families is a bestowed name with abandoned by new parents. Even Muslim men who don't use the name sometimes have it tucked away. Dr. Sean McLaughlin, senior lecturer in contemporary Muslim cultures, politics and societies at the University of Leeds, agrees that many Muslims from Pakistan, Bangladesh or India regard it as a blessing to give a baby the name of the Prophet. While Muslims make up 4.4% of the UK population, a more significant factor is that, while the rest of the population is increasingly choosing from a wider pool of names, Muslims are sticking with Muhammad. But there's more. Let's take a look at the other popular names Prager U didn't bother to talk about. As you can see, all of them are not typically Muslim names, so even if Muhammad is the most popular name, Muslims are still a small minority, because 11 out of the 12 most popular names are European and only one is not, even if it's the most popular amongst them all.
Is guilt. Aren't these refugees, the thinking goes, fleeing the consequences of European imperialism? Didn't we mercilessly exploit these unfortunate people in their home countries? Aren't we the cause of their misery?
I sped up this part of the clip because this man never answers the questions asked by that character he invented. Aren't these refugees fleeing the consequences of European imperialism? Didn't we mercilessly exploit these unfortunate people in their home countries? Aren't we the cause of their misery? Prager U did a great job moving the goalposts, but I still would like to know the answers to these questions, and they didn't answer them, which makes me wonder, which are these traditional European values he keeps talking about? Because so far, assuming this man represents such traditions and values, we've only seen lies, misrepresentation of information, racist dog whistles, denying of help to people in need, anti-humanism, xenophobia, and so on. So, if these are European values, which I think they're not, then why do we have to defend these things, if they are objectively horrible? As a person who truly loves and embraces European culture, I don't think we should act as this man does here, because he seems to be rather evil. And that would be it for this video. Please like it, and share it.